it was the Underground Railroad, which operated with, incredible success, very few betrayals for almost 50 years, really depended, as you say, on this absolute trust. It was this very, even though they were spread out across the country, including into the Deep South, members of the Underground Railroad, they depended on all these contacts along the way. And it was this wonderful kind of experiment in democracy, where it was actually a real democracy, because you had white men and black men, enslaved people and free blacks, and upper class women like Frances Seward, and middle class women like Martha Coffin Wright. And somehow it all worked. There was no real hierarchy there. Everyone had to work together and believe in each other to make it succeed. And it really did. And Tubman had a very keen sense of whom she could trust. This was developed, from the time from birth, of necessity. And she could see immediately that Lucretia Mott and Martha and Frances were people who shared her fundamental beliefs about human freedom.
Tubman, this woman who's given so much to a country, not being able to ride the cars that white women ride. And of course, this was the story that so many Black women were telling before the war and during the war and after the war, and certainly was the kind of experience that inspired Black men who became politicians during Reconstruction to push for changes and public accommodations to make them equal for all people. So yeah, that's a great story. I mean, I love Frances Harper, and it reminded me too, I was just thinking as you were speaking of the wonderful work, recent work of Martha Jones, Vanguard, who's also reminding us that, these Black women were, really out there in the vanguard, pushing for change in the way they were treated in the public spaces and in private spaces. So your book and telling that story again is a great reminder of how poorly Tubman was treated, and how, despite her accomplishments, and how other Black women stood up for her, like Harper, and said, no, we have something to say here. Our experience is quite different from white women's experience.